Hey, welcome back to the shop. Today I'm going to throw out a video on a chainsaw that I've been working on for quite a few months now. If you watch my prior videos, I picked up a Homelite 360, which is the saw I'm working on today. It's a 3 for $35 deal. I was locked up, got that fixed, had carb issues, rebuilt the carb, and then I looked at the intake boot. When I had the carb off, noticed that it was almost completely gone. So I ordered a new intake boot, which took a while to get here. Finally got the intake boot. So today I'm going to put that in, throw the carb back on, throw on the bar that I've had for a while, and chain, and we'll see if I can get it out in the wood. There she is, the Homelite 360. And down in there, if I can get you down in there. You can see all that nastiness down in there. That is what's left of the intake boot. So I gotta get that. You can see the piston's in pretty decent shape. Not bad at all. That is what's going in. New intake boot. It may be small, may be simple, but it causes lots of issues when it goes bad. Carburetor's over here. It's been rebuilt. It's been pressure tested. So as soon as we can get this boot on and back in the saw, we should be pretty good to go, I think. Cross my fingers. Here we go. There are 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, and 4 that you need to remove so that you can pull the whole gas tank assembly off. Obviously, I removed the clutch cover and then I took the dog off. I was told it would be easier that way. So let's get to it. We'll see how it goes. And then there are this bolt up here and this bolt right here. These 2 bolts, they gotta come out, I believe. So I did forget one other thing you gotta do is you gotta take off these 2 bolts on the bottom that hold the handle on. Otherwise, it's not going to come off. And you got to take off this back screw. So handle off. Now this thing should slide. Hopefully. Whew. And your oil line is right here. Let's see if I can get that off. I'm gonna have to go get some pliers to get that off. Maybe. It does not want to come off, let me tell you. I'll be right back. All right, oil line's coming off, fingers crossed. There we go. My impulse line coming out there. There you go. She's off. And she's dirty. I'm gonna probably go ahead and clean this up and I'll turn you right back on when I get it all cleaned up. All right, so I took this plate off. There were 4 screws on this plate and that came right off the top here. And you can see your piston and everything down there. Cleaned everything up a little bit. I got to clean it up some more, but I've got to get, there's a little ring right here. I don't know if you can see that on camera that you got to pry up and get off. And the boot that's on here is just, I don't even know if you can call it a boot. That's what's left of it. It's just nasty. Just nasty. So I've got to get, you can see that metal ring. I got to get that metal ring out of that goo of a boot that's still left there. So I'll do that. And yeah, that's just crazy. No wonder this thing wasn't running. So that's a little ring. That's what's left of the boot. So my impulse line was bad. Your impulse line connects just right down in here. And this was just caked. So the line wasn't even connected. It was just caked, which could be also part of my problem with this saw. So I'm just heating up a new impulse line and I'm gonna put it on. It's just cold out in the shop. So I just got my heat gun going here and just heat it up a little bit. So that just makes it a lot easier to get the line on. She's on all the way. This piece here goes back down on the cylinder. There's a gasket that's stuck to the cylinder, so I guess it gets stuck to the back of this. So I'm going to put that back on there. New impulse lines in. This tray goes back down on top of that. And then it gets screwed down like so. So I'll get that screwed down and I'll bring you up to the next step. I did want to show you though. That's what's left of the intake boot. It is just, it's like tar. It's crazy. So anyway, I'll screw those down and I think the boot goes on next. All right, I got all 4 bolts back in. Impulse lines hanging out. Time to stretch this boot, which has been the crux of my problems, so I think, over the top of this. So I'm going to try my best to do this here. I think I got it. Yeah, I did. Huh. Now that we got that, our little ring, it's just a little stretchy ring, goes over the top. And that is what secures the boot down to the bottom. Let's see if I can get this on. I think I got it. Maybe it's stuck on one of these screws. There we go. There we go. Yep. She's on. Perfect. So that just rolled down and tucks underneath. I just worked it all the way around with a screwdriver. Yeah, she's on. All right, next up. All right, now we got to get this piece back over the boot. So the impulse hose goes through. I'm not going to be able to get that to go. Feed your impulse line through that hole. And then the boot, it's got to go through the middle. And this. Just feed it right through, hopefully. There we go. There you go. So she just sits right on top of there, and then just even it out with your impulse line on the other side. And you're good to go. All right, let's see if we can get this handle back on. First thing we got to do is get the oil line hooked back up. So I'll get that on. Okay, she's on. And impulse line, you need to make sure you feed that through the middle so it doesn't get stuck. And then you should theoretically just be able to just push this back on. Grab your impulse line. And there she is. She's on. So let me just take our bolts. See if we can get this to line up. Let's hand tighten a few of these. So we have 4 of these, if you remember. One, 2. 3. And then 4. So I'll tighten those up off camera. The next thing I need to do is get this lined up and put in the 2 bolts. 2 bolts here. And get that tightened down. So I'll do that off camera, and then it's just putting the carb back on, and then we're good to go. All right, got all 4 bolts and then the 2 inside the carb box done. Now we got to get the handle back on. There's this little flap that protects the muffler from dirt and debris, and I'm trying to put it on upside down. But that lines up with the holes for the handle. And then you just put your handle back on, line everything up. And then, like I said, I'll put the carb on, and then we should be done here. I'll tighten those up. Should really have a ratchet here, but. So handle's on, carb goes in next. I'll probably do that off camera because it's kind of an arduous process. You got to get your 2 rods lined up perfectly. Make sure that you don't get those mixed up. and then just get out your impulse line and your fuel line hooked up correctly. And then it bolts right back down into here. So I got the carb put back on, everything ready to go. And what I was having a problem with is my throttle. I would engage the throttle down here, the trigger, and the throttle would stick right there. It would not release and go back. It would stick right at that point and just wouldn't go back. I tried everything. I got down, see if I can get you down in here. I got way down in there, looking at the throttle linkage, spraying all kinds of WD-40 down there. You can still see some remnants of it. Didn't do anything. So I ended up having to take the wrap off the handle, which was not a fun process. But I got it off, and as I got it off, that popped out of the handle somewhere. So obviously that nut was in the handle for whatever reason. Again, I got this in a bunch of saws, who knows what happened, but it was in the handle and it was preventing the trigger from releasing. And you can see now I have zero issues. So it's just been one thing after another with this saw, but that's what's fun about working on chainsaws. So I got to get the wrap back on the handle, get the lower handle guard back on. I had to heat up the handle to, or the wrap on the handle to get it off. It was just, it's so cold out here, but it worked. So anyway, I'll get it back together and we'll see if we can get her in the, get some gas down her throat and see if she'll pop off. All right, Homelite 360, there she sits, and there she's gonna sit for a little bit. This is gonna end up being a two-part video because I solved one problem, but I've got another one. So carb's back in. It is, the saw's not getting fuel for some reason. Don't know why. I can put fuel down the throat of the carb and she'll pop off, but she's not picking up fuel. Could be because of this impulse line, and I told you originally the inlet down in here, when I got down into the saw, was all covered up with sawdust and dirt and all kinds of oil and stuff. So that could be that inlet down here is clogged up and it's not getting the impulse it needs through the line to pull fuel. Could be I have not checked the fuel filter, shame on me, but I have not checked that, so I will dive into that. So that saga continues. We'll have to make a part 2 of this. One thing I did solve, I told you that the nut that was up in this handle was what was preventing the trigger from working. That's not true. So that nut, I found out, actually is the backing nut for the bolt that goes through the end of the handle. So when I took the wrap off, that nut fell out, and I did not know that. So that is where that nut came from. So then you ask, well, what was preventing the trigger? I'll show you. Down here on the bottom, right here, you can see the wrap on the handle. Let me see if I can do the trigger for you here. So when I was pulling the trigger, you can see how close it is down there. Well, it was hitting, and you can see where it was originally. It was hitting that wrap. So I just took my knife and butchered it basically, but solved the problem. Now the trigger will clear the wrap on the handle. And I'll show you. So originally, I'm assuming the wrap was all the way up to this front part of the body here, and just over time it slid down, but I cannot get it to stay up there. So I could put some glue on there, but if I ever need to pull this wrap off the handle again, I'm kind of messed up, and you don't want to necessarily cut that whole thing off down there, because once you cut all the way through there, you're not going to have anything holding the two sides together. So for right now, it's working. For right now, it's working. Trigger's working fine. So anyway, one problem solved, like I said, but now I got another problem. This saw is a challenge, but I'm up for the challenge. So look for a part 2 with this. Sorry I couldn't get it in the wood today and get this thing running, but hey, that's life working on chainsaws. So thanks for joining me today. Like I said, look for a part 2, and I appreciate you watching. Catch you on the next video.